that you hope you know the answer to, right?
Well, you got the answer. Good, sir.
Yeah, I got to juggle between two meetings, so.
All right, so we've started letting people in.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself, but stay on camera, or maybe mute my camera as well.
Oh, am I waiting just a few minutes before people come in, or?
Yes, ma'am. We're gonna wait a few minutes before people come in, okay, to proceed. This has already started the recording. Don't worry about the recording. It is gonna be shaved. Okay, so when I do give the official hello, we're gonna start. You're gonna start, okay? Please, everybody who is here listening to me, thank you for coming to this event, and just give us a few moments, okay, before we start this event.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Give us a couple of minutes while we get situated before we get started this evening. Thank you.
All right, I think we are about 6:42 p.m. CST. I think this is a great place. I think if anybody's going to show up, they are already here if they really want to participate in such a monumental event in NSBE history. Okay, so we can just go ahead and start this event. All right, and Madam Communications Chair, let us continue what we're doing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone, and welcome this evening to our event. My name is Monique Lake, and I am the Communications Director for the Process Improvement SIG, NSBE, one of NSBE's special interest groups. Today, I would like to welcome you to our member spotlight, co-hosted by another one of NSBE's special interest group, the Healthcare Innovation, SIG. We are very happy this evening to be talking about and focusing on Lean Six Sigma, and we have a very special guest here this evening to share experiences and also give some insight into this topic. We would like the audience to please remain professional throughout this platform. And of course, please direct all questions in the chat feature. And also, if your question is not answered by the time we get to the Q&A session, please ask them in the member feedback section, and feel free to, at that point, communicate with our guest speaker at that time. Now let's dig deeper into our organization as we give an overview about NSBE. So of course, the National Society of Black Engineers, one of the largest student-run organizations in the United States, with more than 24,600 members and probably at this point over 600 chapters, U.S. and abroad. NSBE supports and promotes the aspirations of collegiate, pre-collegiate students, and technical professionals in engineering and technology, and I'll also add STEM as well. Our mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. Our membership is comprised of this membership map, is this graphic as you see in front of you. We have 6 regions, and we are also not only national, but also international as well. So we have our 6 regions. Of course, I reside in the wonderful most region 4. But today we will celebrate all of our regions in this wonderful organization. Our guest speaker is here with us from Region 5, from the Houston area. Now let's talk a little bit about some of our special interest groups, our SIGs. Signature programs in NSBE, chartered to link NSBE with technology and policy to promote technical excellence amongst NSBE graduates and technical professional members. The various special interest groups that NSBE has, in total 11, and some of those, if not all of those, are shown on the screen. Aerospace, energy, entrepreneurship, environmental engineering, healthcare innovation, information technology think tank, intellectual property, process improvement, public policy, transportation, and women in science and engineering. And as you can see, this evening's event is hosted by the Process Improvement and Healthcare Innovation SIGs. A little bit more about the Healthcare Innovation SIG. The vision is to be the most trusted ecosystem for technical expertise and solutions to complex healthcare problems impacting the Black community. And the mission of the Healthcare Innovation SIG is to promote the development and implementation of innovations that will improve diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of injury, illness, and disease. Members and collaborators are welcome across all subsectors, which includes some of the ones you see on the screen, such as consumer healthcare and wellness, diagnostics, digital therapeutics, medical devices, pharma and biotech, healthcare providers, healthcare information management, and healthcare delivery. And in the past couple of years, we have seen all of these impacted with our COVID events. So healthcare innovations definitely plays a huge role. In the Process Improvement SIG, our vision is to be the premier organization for the development and application of continuous process improvement via its talent, tools, and expertise. Our mission, with the 4 bullet points listed, to build a presence as subject matter experts, SMEs, within various industries with regards to process improvement, to ensure that members leverage the latest industry tools, to partner with organizations to expand the presence of the Process Improvement SIG, and to serve as a consulting arm for NSBE as an organization as a whole. Members and collaborators include these particular subsectors: operations, manufacturing, continuous improvement, quality professionals, business strategists, project and program managers, agile scrum professionals, ISO, ASTS, internal auditors, Lean Six Sigma, belts, consultants, and entrepreneurs.
So,
Dr. Charles Davis would like
yes,
to take over and do the interview introduction. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. So I am Dr. Charles Davis, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about Lean Six Sigma. It's a process improvement methodology that combines two approaches. Six Sigma, an approach focusing on eliminating variation in the process so the process can have a more precise result each time, and Lean, an approach focused on the elimination of waste. While the approaches are different, they combine and complement each other to analyze a process, not to create a new one. It can work within process or industry as long as they are defined and they have a measurable goal. Teams can then use this methodology to streamline their processes, to deliver efficient products or services with a predictable performance. It can also be applied repeatedly to a process continually while removing waste and resources and maximizing efficiency. One process that Lean Six Sigma is applicable to is to healthcare delivery systems. Healthcare delivery systems are used in the industry to improve the management of medical information that shows the interconnection between the process improvement and the healthcare innovation. This process improvement inspires healthcare innovation by utilizing tools like Lean Six Sigma to create solutions for humanity. So today, we have the pleasure of having Dr. J.L. Joshua Gray, who has fulfilled the NSBE mission and is a subject matter expert in process improvement and healthcare innovation. I like, without further ado, to welcome Dr. Gray as he introduces himself, and Monique allows Dr. Gray to speak. Welcome, Dr. Gray.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to connect nationally with two special interest groups that are dear to my heart, academically, I'll say, in the process improvement area, and as well as professionally in my ability to influence the healthcare area. So with that said, let me we can proceed or go to the last slide. Want to tell you a little bit about myself. So you may have seen my profile on LinkedIn, and my intentions here, and I'll just be transparent up front, is not to be vain, because I'm very humbled by this opportunity, but to inspire and motivate those who have goals and ambitions, as well as purpose and commitments in life to pursue them. And I'll elaborate why in our question and answer session. So as you'll see here, my primary role is as principal of the Lukeman Consulting Group. And within Lukeman Consulting, I'm literally applying the PI SIG I'll say methodologies to really improve the efficiency of operations within an organization, as well as the effectiveness of the people. So I think of things as people, process, and technology, to improve the technology as well when it comes to innovation. That's the for-profit business. The non-for-profit business that I've recently started and co-founded is STEM with Jazz, and that Jazz here represents the initials of my partner. So it's myself, Joshua. We also have Anderson and Sandra, who I've worked with last year, actually this year, on the Technical Professional Conference Committee. And we've chosen to do so to, again, inspire, motivate, and educate those who are within the pre-collegiate, collegiate, as well as the professional environment. In addition to that, one of the many hats that I wear is really serving as faculty. So I just this semester or over the summer became a professor of practice at Rice University as a result of affiliation with NSBE, after announcing new roles within NSBE that I'll get to. And I also serve as a what I'll say, and it's not included on here, a lecturer at Georgia Tech. So I've been teaching at Georgia Tech engineering and economics for the past almost 5 years. I had the honor to earn and receive certifications such as the project management professional certification. And I apologize in advance for the background noise. Within Houston, I'm living in the center of the metropolitan area in Midtown. So there are pros and cons to that, but my apologies for any background noise you may hear, such as sirens. Moving on, Lean Six Sigma is the key purpose of this conversation, core purpose of this conversation, which is why it's central here. And I have a unique certification that's called Health Technology in the Engineering, or a Health Technology Engineer, that was pursued during my graduate studies at USC for my PhD. I, within NSBE, have the honor of serving as the Healthcare Innovation Finance Director. So essentially, I am responsible for fundraising as well as allocation of funds within our organization or special interest group. And lastly, serving as president of the Houston Professionals chapter. And that really has been beneficial because it allows me to connect with like-minded people in the Houston area. One thing that I'd like to share is that I recently moved to Houston for entrepreneurial reasons, given that there are no state taxes and I teach engineering and economics. It was a math equation for me to see as an entrepreneur that there are various opportunities here, as well as the Texas Medical Center here. So I have had the privilege of being asked to serve as president upon me arriving in February of this year, and have been on the board probably about 6 months now, presiding over the board of the Houston Professionals chapter, one of the largest chapters really in the nation, and has received various awards in the past. And it's my goal to continue the prestige of the organization. So thank you for allowing me to introduce myself and share with you the multiple hats that I wear within NSBE, outside of NSBE, and within the community.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gray, for that awesome introduction.
Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to this wonderful audience that we have on today. And I would like to say welcome and thank you for joining.
All right. So we can move on into question number 1. So how did you get into this line of work?
So this line of work of industrial engineering, I wasn't even aware of when I started as a undergraduate student at Florida State University. I was initially in mechanical engineering, looked at the curriculum of thermodynamics and fluid mechanics versus engineering and economics and project management. And I gravitated towards engineering and economics and project management while interning through En-ROADS during my undergraduate studies with Bank of America in their financial operations. I then got the GEM Fellowship through sponsorship with the United Technologies Corporation, now Raytheon Technologies, due to a merger and acquisition. And that opened up the opportunity for me to pursue my master's degree at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in upstate New York, specifically in the management of engineering area, or engineering management area, which ironically is the degree that I am creating at Rice University. Lastly, it's really based on my experience as, I'll say, a PhD student or a doctoral candidate within USC, University of Southern California, while pursuing my PhD in systems engineering. So it allowed me to get various academic credentials as well as experience. During that PhD process, I learned how to transition I'll say the credentials that I received in other industries into healthcare within the USC Keck Medical Center that was recently purchased. And in my application, I saw the news that they had shut down the kidney center due to putting a kidney in the wrong person, and stated within my statement of purpose for my application that by using Lean Six Sigma methodologies and techniques, we can mitigate that risk from happening. And that was a part of the core of my introduction into the doctoral program, as well as the completion via research and dissertation.
Wow, that is quite a background. And I think it shows that you definitely display the importance of transferable skills across many industries, which ties both of our interest groups together.
Absolutely, and that's the vision that I have, and that I want to share with others as far as what's possible through education, as well as implementation within industry and various facets of industry.
Awesome. So let's roll into question number 2. With all of your background and experience and transferable skills, what lessons have you learned along the way in your respective careers?
So many of, or I'll say most of the lessons have been in the area, first and foremost, of the value of certifications and continuous education. Getting the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification during my role in the corporate leadership program at GE really allowed me to get a firm understanding of continuous improvement. And based on that education, practical education, hands-on experience at GE, I learned that continuous improvement happens through continuous education. And it's not just starting or stopping with a single degree, but continuing to enlighten oneself, whether it's formally or informally. I'm an avid reader. So continuous education is key to advancement in one's degree or career, rather. The other aspect I would say is the value of diversification and experience as society really evolves. So my roles within Genentech, as well as the Keck Medical Center, shared or showed me that these tools and certifications such as Lean Six Sigma and project management are transferable into any industry. The beauty of working at GE is in the corporate leadership program, had the opportunity to apply Lean Six Sigma within transportation, as well as healthcare, as well as energy, many different areas and facets of life. So it's really opening up to see what the experiences that I've received there can then be transferred over into other companies or organizations, such as Genentech, where I was involved with the development of their project management office and pharmaceutical quality system as they merged with Roche. And then as USC was acquiring hospitals to expand their healthcare network, how they can be used within health systems to improve the connections of the system within. So the other piece is related to the value of entrepreneurship and investment. So in investing in oneself, and I had a conversation earlier with my team, production team for the online course that I'm developing at Rice University about, currently there's people who aren't going back to work because they're seeing the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and invest in themselves, and not just in themselves, but the communities that they care about, which may not be of as high of importance to the companies and corporations that we traditionally work for. And to be candid, those who often recruit from I'll say NSBE, to be candid. And one of the things that I'm pushing for as president of the Houston chapter here is for our sponsors to create opportunities for us to go after contracts as vendors versus employment contracts as staff or as laborers. So we can elevate by becoming entrepreneurs and being resilient in that process.
Awesome. I think that would definitely be a driver to move our organization forward overall. That's Very, very intuitive. As we move to question number 3, if you would give yourself any advice about your line of work, what would it be?
So my advice would align with, I'll say my values. So I value, I call it the AAA. So it's accomplishment, it's ability, as well as abundance. And with an accomplishment, the focus is in academics. So valuing education, degrees and certifications that really get you a seat at the table, I'll say, more so than when you don't have degrees. And there are some, I will admit, that, college isn't for everyone. It's those certifications in the technical fields that can really create even just as much, if not more, um, I'll say economic opportunities for those who want to pursue technical certifications and or professional certifications. Ability and that value is related to healthcare, and that's physical and mental ability. And that's one of the reasons why I'm focusing on the transference of my skills in education into healthcare, because there are huge disparities within our African American communities that was really brought to the surface during our COVID pandemic. And the lack of our ability to really navigate and overcome this pandemic in comparison with our other communities, say within potentially the Hispanic race or the Caucasian community. So that leads to my next value of abundance, and it's really economic abundance, and that's an abundance of time and talent. And this is one of the ones that I'll admittedly say I struggle with the most, because there is only so much time within a day, or there's only so much money that exists. The reality is there's only so much time for one individual. If you partner and collaborate with others and create a team, which is what I've been doing within my roles within NSBE and even outside of NSBE, say with STEM with Jazz, to have an impact on the community and utilize the talents that you have, as well as the talents that other people have, so that you're able to identify where there are complements or they are complementary to one another to achieve common goals, common missions. Certain people have certain talents and others do not have those talents. We were given a diversity of talents so that we can work together collaboratively to achieve goals. For instance, within Loopman Consulting Group, I'm also collaborating with others who have connections within healthcare clinicians, or others who have certain strengths in sales and marketing. So it's really creating more time and more talents by partnering and collaborating with others.
I would agree. And definitely one key point that comes to mind from your comment was strength in numbers, and definitely reaching across our diverse networks to bring those people together to make those impactful decisions and moves and things in the community.
And that was one of the reasons why I really advocated for the Healthcare Innovation SIG to partner with the Process Improvement SIG. I know that we've had collaborations in the past prior to me being on the board. This collaboration is an opportunity for us to learn from one another. I was sharing earlier with our interim director within Healthcare Innovations that the skills and talents that the PI SIG has in streamlining operations and really systemizing opportunities is something that can be leveraged on the healthcare innovation side. And then vice versa, you all can leverage our connections within the, say, biotech industry or other comparable industries, whether it's devices or healthcare delivery, which is a key point for myself of focus. It's a win-win situation, really, not just for ourselves, but for the communities we are intending to serve and the mission that we have as an organization.
Definitely, definitely. So as we segue into question 4, in what ways did process improvement certifications impact your health care innovations career?
Good question. So it starts first and foremost with the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification. That was my first certification received while in the General Electric company during one of the leadership programs that I was a part of at the corporate level. And it initially introduced me to GE Healthcare, which at the time was in rebranding mode, to GE Healthcare. And it allowed me to see one that we have devices, but because GE is so ingrained in Lean Six Sigma and the culture there, one of the things that I saw was they have an app, the customer for the customer. So GE, part of their sales and marketing was really to lend out pro bono their what we'll call Lean Six Sigma black belts and master black belts. But within healthcare, there was a different environment where you it could be seen as bribery or something to that extent. So they would actually get people hired as consultants in this space with their clients or customers, and it became a whole new revenue stream for them. Um, I would say the project management professional certification that I received within Booz Allen as an associate with them and their transformation division. I've had the wonderful privilege of serving our country as a consultant or contract consultant within the federal government at the Pentagon with the Department of Defense, helping streamline their Wounded Warrior Program organizational structure so that we can ensure that soldiers are tended to once they come back from combat, so that the benefits and resources that they need, not just themselves but their families that they've been away from, are there, and that there's a structure to the organizations that provide them to minimize confusion. It was also the PMP certification, and Booz Allen opened up doors in the Veterans Affairs space. That's another big healthcare entity, outside of Medicaid and Medicare, one of the largest in the nation, and figuring out how to streamline their operation for soldiers who've come back from combat and have retired are now able to access their benefits by implementing technology that reduces the cycle time, and being in a project management role and working with subject matter experts to support the change and management of that change for not just the employees, but also the customers in that area. And ultimately, during my PhD, focusing on and getting the health technology and engineering certification, which was a novel program that USC introduced. I was in the second cohort that really was stemmed from or built up upon a replication of similar programs that exist at Stanford or at MIT. And it was a wonderful experience where half a dozen engineers pursuing their PhD and half a dozen medical students pursuing their MD were paired together. We took classes with the medical students to understand how they learn. We had labs with them to understand their hands-on learning, not just their, I'll say, their book learning. A lot of memorization. That's one of the things that I learned. But then we also did rounds with the faculty members who were actually practicing clinicians and practitioners, and understanding how they use the tools. In the introductory slide, we had an image of all of the tools and devices and the evolution over time that's used in healthcare. And it's engineers that develop those devices, but not just the devices themselves, the methods of using those devices. There's a lot of robotical surgery technology, as well as information technology, IT software, devices, tablets that are used, and being a part of the discovery as well as the development of those devices from an entrepreneurial perspective, to understand that through the courses that we took, not just in research and development, but also in commercialization, patenting, business development, really opened my eyes to how I can use these 3 certifications from a very practical perspective, as well as an academic perspective. A lot of healthcare, especially public health, takes place in higher education or academia now, which is why it's the target for my consulting going forward, to partner with and to become contractors or a contractor for a lot of the, well, whether it's UCLA or UT Health, Texas A&M, and being a part of the development of those programs. One thing that I discovered during the program that I was in, the HT program at USC, was I was the only industrial engineer. There were tons of biomedical engineers, a couple of electrical engineers, and when I say tons, it was only 6 of us. So the majority were biomedical engineers looking at device development. Electrical engineers would be involved with the device development as well. But okay, after you all develop these technologies, how do we ensure quality and safety with the methodologies that's used, that actually utilizes these devices? So I won't elaborate too much because I want to leave time for others to ask questions as well.
All right, awesome. So going to our next question, what do you believe your greatest contribution has been in your focus area in your career?
I would say it goes back to my principles. I mentioned my values earlier. My principles fundamentally are one of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And being able to contribute to, I'll say, diversity in academia has been an extreme privilege. To be able to become a faculty, a lecturer at Georgia Tech, which is the #1 industrial and systems engineering department in the world, and has been for the past, I'll say, 2-3 decades. Seriously, according to the U.S. News and World Report. Excuse me. With that said, there are no tenured faculty anymore within that department, and there are only 3 Black faculty members out of 60, I'll say. And I'm one of 2 who are lecturers, who have PhDs. One's a full-time lecturer and a full-time pastor as well. And I tell them we have to pray for each other at times in this environment. But also me being part-time, and we've partnered together. There's a third as well, a former general, retired general, as a professor of practice there. But the other lecturer and I have partnered together to create a Center for Engineering, Center for Academic Success and Equity, to really push the needle. I tend to ruffle feathers, which is why I don't think I make a good employee, but more so an entrepreneur, in that I ask questions that others won't, within, and usually of authority figures such as the department chair, when they're sharing with us that, you know, they originally were going to admit 40 PhD students. They expanded it to 43, and of that 43, 3 are African American or diverse descent. And I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing about this? What's the plan? And it's clearly you all don't have a plan. So then what resources can we put behind the development of a plan? And then you get the Elmer for okay, well, let me help you out, but it's not going to be for free. There's a premium price that comes with this opportunity. And I'll say it's the same at Rice, to be one of very few Black faculty in the development of a new Master's of Engineering Management and Leadership program, which is equivalent to the degree that I received at RPI. But this time as faculty, I get to create the program. And it's important. It was important for me to become professor of practice, because then I get equity within the say of how the curriculum is developed. So that leads to the other value or principle of equity, and ensuring that we have equity in industry. So oftentimes, I mentioned the corporate leadership program that I was in at GE. They went through 12,000 applications worldwide, selected 88, 44 of which were in the US, 22 within Europe, 22 in Asia. I was in the second cohort. I was one of 2 African Americans selected for the program. And I was the only, I believe, to actually complete the program. So, you know, making sure that we have equity and have a seat at the table in industry as well has been a huge contribution in my focal area of continuous improvement, as well as healthcare innovation. And then lastly, the value or principle of inclusion. And this is one that I'm really honing in on in the area of economics. And I specifically say economics because it speaks to our communities. Um, and our community is made up of, education as well as various industries. But really, when we look at it, our communities are dependent on healthcare. And one of the pushes that I've been making when it comes to healthcare technology is that it's inclusive, and that when we develop, whether it's vaccines, whether it's devices, whether it's different technologies, that the African American race, as well as our mental and physical components, are taken into account. There was a digital divide for a while, and now a lot of technology when it comes to healthcare is becoming more device based. Well, do we have connectivity? Do we have inclusion of affordability when it comes to these devices via insurance, access, and the limitations that may exist? So inclusion within the community health, I'll say, is one of the pieces that has contributed greatly to my focus in the area of, I'll say, innovation when it comes to healthcare, as well as the process improvement and utilizing the Lean Six Sigma methodology to improve our community health. Because the reason why I got my PhD in systems, because it's one big system. You've got pharmaceutical, you've got devices, you've got the payers, as well as the providers. So there are many different pieces to the puzzle, and we often get left out and aren't included in the decision making that really impacts our communities.
Very, very true. And I also, again, think that COVID has pushed these things to a head where people really need to start looking at these different avenues to make improvements in our communities.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So as we go to our next question, what do you consider, Dr. Gray, to be your greatest strength and opportunity?
Very good question. And I love the way it's written, because one thing I learned at GE is that your weaknesses are opportunities. So I'll start
Right.
off with the strengths. And one of my greatest strengths is resilience in the face of bias in academia, in the industry, even government. Um, there were numerous challenges that came up. What I don't share with a lot of people is when I applied for my PhD program, I applied to Stanford, Berkeley, and USC, and didn't get into any of them. And then USC gave me a call asking if I'm still interested. And they stated that they wanted to admit me, but didn't want me to have to pay the $50,000 out of pocket that it would cost. They wanted to provide a fellowship, but in order to do so, they would need certain GRE scores. And I asked them, you know, what's the score that's needed and by when do you need that score? And they provided that information, and I candidly told them that it would be very difficult to meet that deadline, given that it would be next week. So I asked them, I've got these old GRE scores from when I studied at RPI. They're about 10 years old. ETS probably still doesn't have them. I know you like for them to be less than 5 years old. Will you consider it? And they said, absolutely. They weren't in your package. Email them over to us, and we will follow up with you with a tentative acceptance. But so entry facing barriers there, as well as facing barriers just in the screening process. So of 6 students to screen for actual admission as a candidate into the PhD program, of the 6, only 2 were admitted, and it was recommended that I not even rescreen. Okay, I'm the only African American student. That's bias, and my industry experience showed me that, you know, you have your bureaucracy within faculty, and I've networked and met with, I'll say, administrators as well as trustees. So I know the guy who spent the $11 million to name this department. Do I need to give him a call? So it's being resilient in the face of opposition at various levels. You know, with my own advisor, for my committee, I brought on, or asked that we bring on, the vice president of research for the entire University of Southern California, who traditionally is very, I'll say, quantitative focused, and my research was more qualitative, focusing in home healthcare delivery. And he was on board. It took me requesting that we save all questions to the end of the presentation. And I could see him being antsy in his seat, but you know, you don't know until you ask or make the request to see what comes out of it. So even when losing funding abruptly due to bias from my faculty advisor, and choosing to move from LA to Atlanta, and being resilient and asking as an all but dissertation PhD candidate, to meet with then Dean of Engineering at Georgia Tech, Dr. Gary May, who's extremely affiliated with this organization, on the eve of the Focus Weekend. Met with him as he introduced me to the SEED program director, who recommended that I go over to the department chair, and turning what was a difficult situation financially into a great situation by creating resiliently a faculty position even before I had the PhD at one of the top industrial and systems engineering schools in the nation.
Well, definitely that shows that using resources and tapping into your network is crucial.
And
Because
along those lines, it wanted not to leave out the weakness piece, not the weakness, but the opportunity, I'll say. The weakness can be, we're engineers, and we can be introverted, trying to do things on our own. So the opportunity that I've really been pushing for with myself and with the people, those that I work with, other engineers, is to be more collaborative, whether it's in our personal life, our social life, or our professional life. Really seeing where we can partner together and collaborate. That's a huge opportunity. And many of those stories of resilience that you heard, it was through collaboration that I was able to overcome, and through partnership to overcome the obstacles that existed.
most definitely, there's always a hurdle, but we find a way to get across those hurdles.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what resilient is. Absolutely.
Exactly. Our last question, at least in the formal setting before we get to the Q&A, briefly, how did you get involved with NSBE, and in what ways has the organization helped to elevate your career?
Wonderful question. I was initially introduced to NSBE while during my undergraduate studies, I'll say, at the FAMU FSU College of Engineering. Go Rattlers. Even though I am a Seminole, I would often, you'd find me on the set across the railroad tracks, enjoying my Black people and all that it created within the College of Engineering, being able to see like-minded students as well as faculty and administrators at the College of Engineering there. And there was a tight NSBE network that maintained support for one another, as well as encourage one another. We would always enjoy the conventions and the conferences. It'd be a big party for us to get out of the low Tallahassee and to experience other larger cities. That continued even more so, I'll say, when I went from public institutions into private institutions such as RPI. It was NSBE that actually invited Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, who's unfortunately retiring after 20 years as president of RPI, that I met her during the application process to enter into or be admitted into RPI. So, and I mentioned being able to meet Gary May there as well. So not only having the opportunity to be able to meet them, but to serve as mentors for undergraduate students or other students of color. It's through NSBE that and the career fair, that I had the opportunity to meet, I'll say, supporters, advocates, mentors at GE, which really advocated for me to not only enter into the as an intern within the company, but also to receive the opportunity to enter into their corporate leadership program, as well as Booz Allen Hamilton. When I was in the interim doing some consulting previously and the economy was on the downturn, I went to a NSBE conference and actually did some networking within the career fair, and learned about Booz Allen Hamilton, made some connections with one of our SIG members, Aguna, who was able to support me coming into that company. Now, eventually I chose to do more entrepreneurial ventures and things like that. But even in my entrepreneurial ventures, while serving as faculty, it was the announcement of me becoming the, I'll say, president of the professionals chapter here in Houston, that the vice president of, I shouldn't say vice president, vice provost of academic affairs over at Rice University contacted me on LinkedIn, requested that I uh, get on his calendar. Essentially, we were had connected originally through NSBE while at RPI. He was studying for his PhD, and I was studying for my master's. But it was that connection that we maintained that originated in NSBE, that continued even after we weren't. It had been about 20 years since I'd seen Fred, but it led him to reach out to inquire, well, how did you become president of an organization? You've only been here for 3 months. And then he shared with me that they're developing this new master's program within the Center for Engineering Leadership that he leads. And ironically, his boss, who had come from Georgia Tech a few years ago, moved his way up from being a Black department chair at Georgia Tech to a dean at Rice over engineering, and then provost, Dr. Reggie Roaches. It's that network of connections that is created within NSBE at the professionals level that I'm really being intentional about regenerating even after our involvement at the collegiate level. We have very successful people and connected people within industry, within government, within academia that can evolve and provide ways for us to um, really benefit overall. Now, and Fred reminds me of this on a consistent basis, it takes you doing the work to earn the degrees and the credentials, and I'll say the experience to be qualified. But once you're qualified, and not just qualified 9 times out of 10, we often learn in NSBE we have to go above and beyond what our non-minority counterparts have to do. We then get a seat at the table, or the opportunity to obtain a seat at the table. We still have to do the work. I still had to apply, interview, and it's ongoing. So yes, you are, professor practice at Rice, but this is contractual, a 3-year term. I've already asked for it, typical, I'll say, process improvement. When are the performance evaluations? What am I being measured on? Who's doing the measurements? And what are best practices for preparing for those evaluations? So being aware of, how you're being measured subjectively as well as objectively. And we learn a lot of that, as well as, I'll say, soft skills within NSBE, especially if you choose to take advantage of leadership opportunities. Learning to work with people as an engineer is one of the key aspects that you gain with NSBE. And I would just be candid, especially when you're working with your own people, because we don't always agree. but we have the same mission and commitment, and it's focusing on that mission and commitment that allows us or enables us to achieve the goals that we're committed to as a community.
Very, very well stated. And I have noticed that from doing these interviews before, you have really made some key points that no one else has shared with us. So this is very exciting.
Thank
So
you.
we are now going to segue into the Q&A portion of our event this evening. And I would like to remind audience attendees to please place your questions in the chat feature. And make sure you use the feedback form for any unanswered questions that may arise from out of the Q&A section of our event this evening.
And please feel free to ask questions. I'm very passionate about giving back to our communities and providing any insight, questions, or suggestions that you all may have. I'm here for you guys, as mentioned in the beginning.
I can read a question from Mr. Ronald Baker.
Wait, before you get a question from Mr. Ronald Baker, there was other questions given from
Oh, okay.
the registration form.
I'm sorry.
Thank you guys for submitting questions through the registration form. People were paying attention. That's great. So we do have some pre-populated questions. All right.
Thanks, Stephanie.
No problem. And the first question for this evening is, how do you anticipate overcoming roadblocks, if any, to an intersectionality of process improvement in healthcare innovation?
That's a very good question. When I first when I was in the health technology and engineering program, especially as a Black male, and as the saying goes, Black don't crack. I look younger than I am, and that can be, I'll say, a blessing in my personal life, but a curse in my professional life. I would come into these hospitals and introduce myself as an engineer. And they're looking at me like, okay, well, the lights over there need to be changed, or, we have this piece of equipment that's, the technician needs to work on. That's not my role. And I would enter into those environments. Okay, you've got a white coat, I've got a blue blazer. And, that's how I approach the situation. I just realized that I don't have my blazer on now that I intended to wear, but essentially, and I'll put it on just for that reason for you guys, to remind you that professionalism as professionals is a value. It's a key component to how you are perceived and how you are received within your community. So coming to the table as a professional, and one of the reasons why I got my doctorate is, okay, you are, Dr. Jones with your MD. I'm Dr. Gray with my PhD. So we're equals here. Let's start off there. You've got credentials, I've got credentials. My credentials are different. Let me explain my credentials, because they're very different than your credentials, and how they can add value to you, not just by explaining. And I've learned quite a bit of this in the entrepreneurial space. We have features as engineers in the widgets that we create. Okay, well, it can reduce cycle time, or it can increase accuracy. What does that communicate or translate into for these clinicians or administrators within healthcare? Okay, it reduces your cost and it increases your revenue. And also it reduces your risk in the face of regulations and your ability to operate. Either you continue to operate or you get shut down, which we've seen in certain communities, especially in our urban communities, where the healthcare facilities that were in the neighborhoods that are majority Black aren't the most efficient, aren't the most effective, and don't have the newest technology. Or I shouldn't say the newest, because it's not always about the newest, but the most innovative technology. that's available. So by, really coming to the table professionally, and I will say leveraging the knowledge and insight that you have from a professional perspective, and seeing how you can create win-win situations where, again, through collaboration, they know the clinical aspects. You know all the stuff in the body. I can help you outside the body. What I didn't share is that I got into healthcare because my uncle, who's a surgeon, who's now retired, he was in LA for about 20 years and Bermuda for about 20 years. He wanted me to go to medical school. I don't like blood and guts, or the possibility of someone dying as a result of something that I did. So you guys are good with that. Let me help you with your scheduling. Let me help you with your layout, your workflow. Let me help you with the safety of your devices, or the quality of care that you are able to provide your patients. So knowing your again, strengths and opportunities, and saying where you can collaborate in a complementary manner with other professionals within those industries, in this instance, specifically healthcare.
Okay, and then let's take another question. And thank you for that response. It seemed like he was throwing shade to those who doesn't have a PhD.
Not necessarily just within
No,
healthcare. This
that's
is
what it
specific
was.
to
No, that's what it was.
healthcare.
That's what it was. But Mr. Ronald, I think you had a question. You were stating that you have been a Lean Six Sigma practitioner for over several years, and in the recent years, it seems like agile methodologies have become the new thing. What are your thoughts on this new industry focus? Thank you, Mr. Ronald B, for that question.
Yes, thank you for that question. Agile is a result of our fastly moving economy and our ability to make decisions quickly. And I think it's one of the reasons why initially Lean was added on to Six Sigma. Just to be candid, when I got my Black Belt certification, it was just Six Sigma. And the reality is Six Sigma projects took months, and people weren't necessarily willing to wait that long. When I say people, the executives that wanted to see a return on investment of the resources they were allocating to these projects. So I think Agile is, another evolution that's taking place, not just specific to the continuous improvement methodology, but more so to the project management methodology. One of the ways I was able to quickly obtain the PMP certification, because I had worked on so many projects as a Black Belt, and your ability to effectively and efficiently manage these projects lead to beneficial or detrimental results. I've seen projects that truly have started and not finished because they lack scope. They lacked agility. When the economy changes, when COVID happens and you're working on a project, what do? You need to be agile. So I think it's just one more evolution for the inclusion into the tool set that we have as performance or process improvement leaders, that allows us to adapt more effectively, more efficiently to the needs and demands of our customers. It's all about supply and demand, which is why I teach engineering economics. Good question.
Thank you for that. And then from our partner group today, the Health Innovation SIG, from I think John T. It says, as you reflect on your global career path across academia and industry to entrepreneurship, okay, what would you cite as top 2 or 3 missteps of transitioning engineering professionals?
It's interesting you mentioned the global aspect. One of the missteps, I'll share with you, when I was in my PhD program, I wanted to do global health research. And I wanted to do it in Africa. My ancestors are for Africa. I did the ancestry DNA test and found out that, I'm 40% Nigerian, but I've never been to Africa. So there was this project opportunity to do some global health and systems engineering, what was called health systems engineering, for this particular effort within Uganda. And I went into Uganda with a team, of course, I was one of very few, probably the only. There was a mixed guy that went with us, but African American, thinking, okay, well, I'm African, but I'm going to bring my American ideas, and thinking that I'm going to help them, and the comment was made at once, who says we need your help? And I stepped back and said, you know what? Let me rephrase that. And a lot of times it's the way in which we communicate, and that I'll segue into the communication. How can I support you and what you're trying to achieve? And utilizing tools for root cause analysis, not where I'm coming in with predisposition ideas, but we're doing a fishbone diagram with the subject matter experts there, and they're sharing with us their perspective, which would be fundamental to us. Queuing, they have kind of the situation where there really is no line for who's next, or isn't any scheduling. It's the person who runs in and yells the loudest gets seen next. So it's okay, let's implement something very simple. You get a number when you check in at triage, and we implement based on that number. Where I was going with communication is in that transition, there are different terms that are used within engineering, within healthcare, versus within academia, versus industry. So understanding the terminology and having the ability to translate from one entity, say academia, into industry or into government, and take what we've learned from other industries. I've been in energy, I've been in transportation, and what may be termed one way within one industry is called something else in another industry. So a part of the biggest challenge is finding my place in healthcare. On our board within Healthcare Innovations, myself and our deputy director have really been advocating for focus on healthcare delivery, and translating what that means. What we were talking about, process improvement and stuff like that. What does that mean? What's a process? It's the methods in which you use to provide healthcare. It's the delivery methods. So translating terms into something that they understand. A conversation that John and I actually had, we were talking about segmentation, and I was talking about the different segments within healthcare. Well, in healthcare, they call it sectors. So, okay, we're talking the apples and the oranges. It's a fruit. So at the end of the day, to ensure that you understand in my communication, the intention, let's use this term. And Lean Six Sigma is a primary or a fundamental example of this. It's taking industrial engineering tools, techniques, and methods and putting it into terms that business executives understand. Now we're using Japanese terms, and we had to do some translation along the way. When I introduced myself as a Lean Six Sigma black belt, they may think it's involving martial arts, but through communication in terms that they understand, we can translate what started off in industrial engineering and manufacturing into health system services, to see the transferability of tools and technologies and the benefits that they can provide. Thanks for the question, John. Glad you're on.
Thank you so much for these questions. I just would like to know, Miss Monique, are we good on time? I don't know if everybody who's here, you enjoying the conversation. I know I am, and I definitely would like to continue the conversation. I know, Dr. Gray, you have a time limit, and I do appreciate you, giving your golden nuggets this evening. But anybody who is giving questions today, if the answers are not given this evening, please make sure we will answer those questions. Maybe Healthcare Innovation SIG and Process Improvement SIG should write an article after this event, captivating these questions and giving proper answers, okay? So, yeah. And so I don't know if Dr. Gray, if you want to take one more question from the audience.
Sure.
And we'll close it out, okay?
Absolutely. I can take another question or two.
Okay, so we can take the next two questions, and that will be Deja N's question and then healthcare programs. So if you throw any more questions in the chat, please go ahead and still throw them in there. They will be documented and used for an article later in life as healthcare innovation finance director just proposed and accepted, right? So
Part of my role as an academic now, publications, a pseudo academic, I'll say, in between industry and academia.
okay, and so the next question from Deja is, as an early professional, I think she's an early career professional. I think when she says BSE, I wonder if that's bachelor's in engineering, ma'am, in biomedical engineering. What certifications or training or educational pursuits would you recommend to pivot into a professional health care technology engineering career?
So there's numerous certifications. There's so many certifications and badges that are out there that exist. Versus a specific certification, I would recommend actually looking at trends. I tell people one of the reasons why I've moved initially 8 times within a 10-year period, and Texas is now my 9th state, and I shouldn't say 8 times to 8 states. I moved twice in one state in California, is that I follow the money. I follow finances. One of the reasons why I transitioned from commercial consulting into federal consulting is because the client I was working for, AIG Insurance, needed a bailout to the tune of $80 billion over the weekend, and they received the bailout from the federal government. Okay, I'll go consult for the federal government. Because they've got the money that, these companies that I've been consulting with has. And when I saw, in the evolution of the Affordable Care Act and some of the resistance within the government to business transformation, which was what I was hired to do, and told that it would take an act of Congress to change any of their operations, I said, okay, I'll go to biotech. They're really open to change, and pursued that route. And that's how I originally got into biotech. So I encourage early career professionals to take advantage of some of the advice that I gave earlier, and that's to read and continuously educate oneself. There are, various certifications that may exist within biomedical engineering, and one of the best ways to learn about them is through the organizations in society. I was just at a biomedical engineering society conference in Orlando, Florida, and there was a number of students there at the career fair and the workshops, and it's by being engaged with your chapters on campus and the advisors in those areas, as well as faculty within those areas, in addition to reading the publications that are produced by these professional societies, and understanding what the trends are and the directions these industries are going towards, and being I'll say educated in that area, as well as certified if there are any certifications in that area that provide you with credentials to qualify. One of the reasons why I got the PMP certification is the federal government was I'll say not requiring, but recommending that PMPs be hired for their contracts. And at the time, Booz Allen Hamilton had some money available, and they paid $5,000 for me to get the certification. And I chose that certification because I saw that it was in high demand within the industry that I was working in short supply. So I'll end there so that we can get another question in. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, and if Miss was that Miss Deja? Yeah, Miss Deja, if you're in the audience and if you can confirm if that helps you, please let us know. And if it doesn't, we're more than glad to ask her any follow-up questions in our feedback survey, okay? The next and final question for this evening will be from our partner organization, again, from the programs area, So the programs area said, thank you for sharing your experiences. This was very insightful this evening. And you've mentioned that engineers and underrepresented groups should find opportunities to collaborate, right? This can often be challenging in balancing one's time and identifying the right collaborations. Okay. What is your advice in applying process improvement technologies to be effective in collaborations with others? That's a great question.
It is a great question. I'll start off, DJ, if your question was an answer, or others who have questions that we don't get a chance to get to, I just placed my contact information, which is my professional's email, as well as when I say professional, chapter email, as well as the SIG email as treasurer, in addition to my LinkedIn profile where you can connect with me there, and my personal or professional, I guess I should say, email address, independent of NSBE, is available on LinkedIn as well. To answer your question, what process improvement methodologies can be utilized? I would say Lean is a good starting point in the methodologies within Lean, where, and I'm thinking initially of, the 5 whys. So start off by asking, why should we partner with this organization? And whatever answer that is, ask another why. And I often, and it's really that simple, because it helps you to prioritize, to understand when you compare their intentions to your mission or your goals and objectives, is there alignment? And though, and timing is another thing. I'll share with you all, I am a big advocate and reader of Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is in direct alignment with the process improvement methodologies, but more so from a life perspective versus a personal perspective, or a professional perspective, rather. It's from a personal perspective as well as a social perspective, that there's the quadrant that we have where you have urgent versus important. And whenever someone comes to me with an opportunity, and I'm I'll be implementing this within SIG as well. One, is it urgent? Okay, so if it's urgent, why is it urgent? Is it because somebody forgot to do something they were supposed to do, or there was a proposal that we received and it was urgent timing? Okay. 2, is it important? Does it align with our values and our objectives and goals, as well as our mission? And by prioritizing and segmenting your opportunities, you're able to see, okay, where's their alignment? And I'll say, in addition to that, as a professor of engineering economics, I was just teaching this to my students the other day. What's the return on investment? I'm investing my time, which equates to my money. And, what return am I gaining from this investment? People ask me, well, you seem to be wearing a lot of hats. You're on 2 boards at NSBE. I remember, just to be transparent, our PUB chair-elect kind of laughed and questioned my choices in being on 2 boards, and it was for strategic reasons. There was an immediate return on investment for allocation of funds for the chapter here. And it wasn't just for the chapter here, but the opportunity to collaborate with other chapters. One of the initiatives as the treasurer that I've implemented is chapter grants, so that we can partner with other chapters in strategic regions that have healthcare companies as well as organizations that we'd like to be affiliated with, for the purpose of pursuing and progressing our care strategy. So the other question when it comes to return on investment and role, I'll say, is to look at the role. Is this request in alignment with my role and responsibilities? Should I be doing this, or should someone else be doing this? That gets into, allocation and delegation of time. And if it's within someone else's role, being in communication and partnership with them and their ability to fulfill on that role. And if they aren't able to fulfill that role, maybe there needs to be some restructuring. And there's a lot of that occurs in change management within corporations or organizations where, that role, may need to be obsolete or may need to be reallocated to someone else. And those are some tough choices to make within, especially when you have a volunteer organization where people are volunteering their time and you're volunteering your time as well. Then there's the choice of mentoring and coaching. Do you have the time or the ability to contribute to their development? And if not, delegate it to someone else or make suggestions on how resources they should be using to develop themselves. And if they aren't willing to do so, they may need to bow out gracefully, as my I was president of Ujima, JMA, a service organization, Black service organization in high school, and our advisor would say that she was one of the AKAs, so she had a very graceful way of saying that, please excuse yourself. So.
And so I have a quick favor to ask you. Okay,
Yes.
I know we're on time, and I want to beg you. I want to beg and plead. Okay, you can give me a few more minutes to answer this last question. That's
Sure.
And I said this wasn't the last question, but can you pretty please accept this one? And the question is coming from the process improvement, SIG. This is a great closing question, right? In traversing several industries, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most used tools? Also, what's hot in healthcare that people should keep their eye on and learn about?
When traversing over, excuse me, multiple industries, it's funny, I've gotten a habit, even though I'm here by myself and I have a cough, I still use my habit, my shoulder. But I'll say Lean Six Sigma has been transferable. It's more so lean. Because there's baby steps in introducing Six Sigma. There may be instances where you don't have the data or even a process that exists. You may have to create a process that doesn't exist. So a lot of the lean tools are very applicable to healthcare. I would say, some of the basic Six Sigma tools I mentioned, fishbone diagram, root cause analysis. There's more and more literature that's being produced, and it's my intention to contribute to that literature of best practices for applications. But I would start off by understanding the fundamentals, and I'd mentioned the 5 whys, understanding the different forms of waste that's a part of lean. Using various tools such as Kanban. Start off with the basics so that we clean up the operation as it exists. A lot of times when I get into business transformation, the technology people want to advise on how they can streamline the existing process. Okay, we don't need to replicate or digitize the existing process, because if it's a crappy process done manually, then it's going to be a crappy automated process. Let's go in first and foremost and understand what the current state is. One of the basic tools within or outside of Lean Six Sigma, process mapping. Let's sit down and talk with the subject matter experts to understand what the current state is. And a lot of times they want to give you the standard operating procedure. What's documented and what's done is often very different. So you've got this standard operating procedure of what they should be doing. And a lot of times they may not even have a standard operating procedure if they're not in a regulated environment. That's very different for healthcare. It depends on if you're working with a startup or a larger organization. But let's sit with the people who actually do the work. And when I say sit with, shadow, as well as interview them, using some focus groups. So a lot of initial, what I call within academia, qualitative research, and just understanding the lay of the land. And this is valuable for organizational effectiveness and translation and change management, as well as technology innovation. Understanding what are some of the pain points that exist within an environment through just talking with people, or looking at the data, because the data may say one thing, and talking with people may say another, especially if they've scrubbed the data to hide discrepancies. A lot of times in healthcare, medical errors may or may not be reported because of, ego of the physician who made it, or concern about their credentials and things like that. So um, first and foremost, it's always valuable, especially when doing consulting or any type of project work, to build trust and rapport with the subject matter experts that you're working with, as well as the teams that you're working with, so that they trust you, you trust them, and that they can be as transparent as possible with you as a consultant and a process improvement leader. It's your job to translate their ideas, their thoughts into, a lot of times if you're working with frontline people, the bare bones concepts and terms that they use into something, terms that is acceptable or well received by the executive levels, and doing so in a way that makes the provider of that comment or suggestion or providers as anonymous as possible, and empowering them to be able to contribute or have a seat at the table, some equity. Even though they're not at the table, you're the person in the room when they're not in the room, making advice or suggestions on their behalf. And where appropriate, or they feel not non-threatened, giving them credit for that as well. So it's a lot of relationship building and I'll say structure creation through streamlining. And you can get some great ideas just from interviewing, shadowing people, as well as doing focus groups even before you get into the data analysis, because they'll tell you why the data looks the way it does. The computer just crunches the data and the database provides it, but it may tell you some stories through statistical analysis if you have that volume of data. But there's some things that you can obtain a hypothesis on, and this is why I use mixed methods for the type of work that I was doing research on. It's home healthcare, and we don't have a lot of data about home healthcare. We don't have the machines and the databases within homes. So, we went out and interviewed patients in their homes, by, you have your enrollment of subjects and their acceptance of the opportunity, but go in and do home observations. How is this device working, or where is it in your home? Where does it fit? How many people do you have in your home? We're interviewing, Hispanic communities that often have multiple generations within the home, and understanding the dynamics of that environment, understanding the culture of that environment, where there may be aversion to what traditional Eastern medicine and Eastern technology. So by documenting and doing just some thematic segmentation of what you hear and what you learn from them, and go in, with open eyes and ears to learning and discovering, not already thinking, or have the answer, or seeing them. One of the principles within my dissertation, excuse me, that I utilize is called, my focus is human factors, excuse me, is participatory ergonomics. By engaging the people who are actually going to be using the tools and technology, and understanding how they use it, and enrolling them or involving them in the design of it. And it's not just technology and devices, it's the methodology, or the process. So understanding, because oftentimes as Lean Six Sigma practitioners or process improvement practitioners, we come in knowing the least about current state or the industry. And it's up to us to build trust and rapport with the subject matter experts in that industry, learn as much as possible about that industry professionally, and to culminate the information that we gather using the tools and methodologies within our tool belt to really make recommendations and advance the improvement, I'll say, of that organization or that industry. Hopefully that helped.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Gray, for all of your insights this evening. And I just want to make a special mention. Please stay connected with both of our SIGs on social media. On the screen, you see both of our social media handles and tiny URLs for reaching out to both of our organizations. And I want to just thank you, Dr. Gray, and all the volunteers, all the members who are on, all the attendees this evening, to make this member spotlight a huge success. And definitely, again, thanking our honorary guest, Dr. Gray, for spending this time with us and sharing his insights. And um, I know that he will have a lot of interaction with many more members to come to get more insightful nuggets of information. So we want to just thank everyone on the call this evening and hope that you learned some valuable things this evening from our presentation.
And I want to express my appreciation as well to the PICIG and its board for creating this opportunity. I understand it's the first time we're doing a member spotlight live and allowing for people to ask questions. And I want to also thank my board within healthcare innovation to accept the opportunity to partner on this and see how we can support one another as professionals within the organization, as well as to thank those who actually joined, who registered and not just registered, but showed up. And I hope that there was some value for you within the answers to the questions. I've included again my contact information within and outside of NSBE for your reference. So please feel free to email me. And if you have additional questions or want additional advice, I'm more than happy to connect with you. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Looking forward to future opportunities for a collaboration with the PICIG, and I think not just within the SIGs, but within our chapters at the professional level, as well as I'll just be candid, after working on the convention committee for technical professionals. I'll say, within the organization overall, and we have a tremendous opportunity with our new president that I had the opportunity to sit on a roundtable and listen to, and I should say CEO versus president of the organization, to evolve our mission in various ways, as well as the structure and technologies that we use, the methodologies that are used within NSBE nationally, as well as internationally.
All right. Thanks so much. Stephanie, did you have any final comments or remarks?
No, I just want to thank Dr. Gray for allowing me to, this little idea that was in my head, and this little video that was playing over and over for about an hour and a half for like many weeks is now live and in front of you guys to see.
And I just want to especially thank Stephanie for the hard work and effort that she put in, the sleepless nights to make this all possible. And I just appreciate her so much on the communications team and Dr. Davis and everyone on both of our SIG boards.
And I want to thank Dr. Davis for originally inquiring about me participating in this, coming up with the idea, and for Stephanie and all of her persistence and trying to catch up with me in my busy schedule to make this happen. Thanks so much for your commitment and the opportunity to be a contribution.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Okay.
Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.